This is the ultimate celebrity conspiracy theory iceberg. We're going to talk about some of the most famous conspiracy theories of all time. I'm going to tell you them and then I'm going to rank them on a believability scale of 1 to 10. And then on top of that, there's different tiers of the iceberg, okay? We've got the tip, we've got pop culture classics, we've got cult favorites, and then the deepest tier, of course, is the void. So let's start with the tip of the iceberg here. These are some of the dumbest celebrity conspiracy theories I've ever heard that I just don't really believe, but a lot of people do. So let's talk about it. First of all, Katy Perry is secretly JonBenet Ramsey. This one, I don't even know. I don't know a single person that actually believes this, besides like people on the internet, but it is definitely one of the internet's most wild conspiracy theories. And I feel like it started as a meme, but I do think there are people who do believe this theory to be true. So essentially, JonBenet Ramsey is obviously the 6-year-old pageant girl who was murdered in her Boulder, Colorado home in December of 1996. And the case has never been solved. It is probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest, unsolved case that like is most talked about, maybe ever. Honestly. But there has been a long-running popular conspiracy theory that Katy Perry is actually JonBenet Ramsey grown up. I know, it's absurd. I've never talked about this in like a serious manner. But either way, I think the only reason people believe this theory is because they think Katy Perry and JonBenet Ramsey look alike, which I've never thought either. I just have never understood where this conspiracy theory came from. I think it was just a meme that's been taken too far, okay? Because there are people who do believe this shit. But for one, Katy Perry was born in 1984, not 1990, which is when JonBenet Ramsey was born. She was also born in Santa Barbara, California. She also has parents. Like, I don't know. Katy Perry has definitely acknowledged this rumor as a joke. I just think, imagine being a celebrity and this is the most famous conspiracy theory people say about you is. Like, what the hell? I feel like this just goes to show how quickly and easily memes spread on the internet as conspiracy theories, because again, there are people that actually think that this is true. I am not one of them, and therefore this is at the tip of the iceberg, and it is coming in with a -1 out of 10 believability scale. Sorry, I don't think it's true. What would be the purpose of JonBenet Ramsey's parents or whoever faking her death and then making her become a pop star that is Katy Perry? No. I mean, just with the basic facts here, the age, the locations, the public records, like, is impossible. I don't believe it, but I want to hear what you guys think, and if you do, that's cool, but tell me why. Please explain. All right, the next theory at the tip of the iceberg is definitely that Avril Lavigne died and was replaced with a clone named Melissa. I still, to this day, do not understand why there are people who believe this theory. Once again, I think it started as a meme, but kind of not really, because there is some actual, like, lore to this. But I feel like it's become such a meme that like everybody sees it as a joke. Like Avril has joked about it, but there are genuinely people who believe this. So basically all of this tracks back to a 2011 Brazilian blog that was titled Avril Está Morta, which means Avril is dead. And the author laid out a very elaborate conspiracy theory about how Avril Lavigne died and was replaced with a double named Melissa. And this is like one of the first conspiracy theories that I've heard of, honestly, all time, but also like specifically of like a celebrity clone situation or a doppelganger. So where's the evidence here? Okay, we have freckles and moles that allegedly move. Okay, there's a lot of pictures comparing old Avril to new Avril, and it seems like some freckles disappear or appear, and people think in general she just looks different. People say that her bone structure is different, her nose is different, which, like, I mean, people could get a nose job, but whatever. A lot of people say her teeth look different and her jawline is different, and have done handwriting analysis on Avril's old handwriting versus her new handwriting, or versus Melissa's new handwriting, I should say. Also, their styles is really what's changed a lot, okay? Avril Lavigne was the punk rock chick of the early 2000s. She was everything. And now she just makes this weird pop music. I can't lie. The Hello Kitty song? What was that? That's not Avril. See, like, that's the part of the theory I believe, because I don't know who that is. Gotta be Melissa. Also, there's this photo, which is a photo shoot from the 2000s. Like, honestly, I have no explanation for this photo shoot, but there is a photo of Avril Lavigne with the name Melissa written on her hand, and I think that's kind of where the theory stems from, or at least where they got the name Melissa. Still don't know why this photo exists. Don't know. Avril Lavigne has never confirmed or said anything, so it's just up in the air. But overall, I still think that this theory is not true. And last time I talked about this theory, a lot of people in the comments were like, Michelle, no, we believe this. And I want to hear why, because I'm giving this one a 1 out of 10 on the believability scale. No, like, I don't get it. What would be the purpose of replacing Avril Lavigne with the clone and then also making her clone like not as cool and good? She's cool, but like, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like she stopped doing music that was like the iconic Avril Lavigne sound. So I don't know. I just feel like from a marketing standpoint, would it be worth it to do that? Don't know. All right, the last tip of the iceberg theory has to be, of course, the conspiracy theory that Stevie Wonder is not actually blind. This is a very popular conspiracy theory. There are so many people who genuinely believe this, and I honestly think that maybe they just don't know how like blindness works, if that makes sense, but we'll talk about it in a second. Basically, there was this viral clip from 2010 of Stevie Wonder, like basically a mic stand starts to tip over and he catches it, and that clip itself has made people believe that Stevie Wonder is not blind. Here's the thing though, is that like a lot of blind people can see like lights or outlines of objects, so I think he probably either see it or you can kind of feel it coming. I know people say that like your sense is heightened, but then I've also heard blind people say that that's not true. But I feel like obviously when you have to rely on your other senses, maybe he was able to hear the mic falling or feel it, kind of, if that makes sense. I don't know, okay? I'm just not gonna question Stevie Wonder right now, you know? One thing I will say though, that bumps this up on the believability scale just a little bit, is that Shaquille O'Neal has talked about this many times, that he was on an elevator once with Stevie Wonder and Stevie greeted him by name and said, "What's up, Shaq?" But like Shaquille O'Neal didn't introduce himself. Like Stevie Wonder just knew it was Shaq in the elevator. That I don't really have an explanation for, and it still freaks Shaq out to this day. I mean, Stevie Wonder obviously denies these claims. He has said multiple times the same story. He became blind shortly after he was born, and again, he just does not subscribe to this conspiracy theory at all, and he just thinks that it's ridiculous, obviously. And I do too, but I'm gonna give it a 2 out of 10 on the believability scale here, just because I don't think it's impossible, and I think the Shaq thing is weird, but like also somebody could have told Stevie Wonder like, "Hey, Shaq's on the elevator." I don't know, but also how would they know that? Like, I don't know. It's just weird, okay? But I still don't think it's true, but let me hear your thoughts. All right, now tier 2 is the pop culture classics, okay? These are some conspiracy theories that are leaning towards a little bit more believability. We're still at the beginning, you know? These aren't conspiracy theories that I'm like staying up at night thinking about. So the first one in this tier is that Lorde is lying about her age. This has been a long-running conspiracy theory for such a long time, and I understand why it's a theory, okay? This has been a rumor since Lorde's music first came out. When Royals was released in 2013, Lorde was only 16 years old. No. What do you mean by that? The way her vocals just sounded so much more aged. I think she looked older. Now I feel like she like actually looks her age, but I don't know. Like, I think that this was a pretty popular conspiracy theory at the time because people just couldn't believe that she was only 16 years old. And honestly, I kind of agree. But what I believe more is actually the theory that Margot Robbie is older than she says she is, because tell me how. In The Wolf of Wall Street, she was only 23 years old. No, I don't care. Not even saying like, oh my god, I just look so young. She doesn't even look old. Like, she doesn't look bad. It's just like she has a more mature look to her face, but like not in like a wrinkly way or anything. I don't know how to explain it, but like, girl, how she looks so much older than 23. There's no way. And Lorde honestly is kind of giving the same energy. I think it's because of their bone structure, honestly. Their bone structure has kind of that like hollowed look that you get as you age that just isn't what you would have as someone in their 20s, and especially not as a teenager, which is how Lorde has looked the same age since she came on the scene. So the rumor got so bad that a journalist ended up paying a fee to New Zealand's registry to obtain Lorde's official birth certificate. I don't like that you can do that, but apparently you can. And she was born on November 7th of 1996, making her, at the time of this conspiracy theory, 16 years old. So that rumor was pretty squashed, which is why I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 10, because I still do agree that she feels older to me. Like, she does not feel 29. How is like Lorde feels older to me than like Ariana Grande by a lot. but like obviously Ari's older. I don't know. It's making me feel weird. Okay. All right, the next theory is another one of the most popular conspiracy theories about any celebrity ever, and it is about Lady Gaga and Lina Morgana. So there is a theory that Lady Gaga murdered her old collaborator and stole her identity, which kind of sounds a little crazy, but when you break it down, it's not that nuts. Sorry. It's like, I kind of could believe it. So in the early 2000s, before Lady Gaga was Lady Gaga, she was just Stephanie Germanotta. She wrote songs and records with 18-year-old Lina Morgana, who was a pop star at the time trying to make it, and she had such an interesting style. Her style is very much similar to what Gaga's style is now, like that kind of eccentric vibe that no one else was really doing at the time. In 2008, Lina tragically fell from the roof of a Staten Island hotel and passed away at the age of 19 years old. And then just a few months later, Gaga comes up with this platinum blonde hair, this outrageous fashion, dark pop, and is just an absolute phenomenon with her style. And Lina Morgana's mother herself claims that Gaga stole her daughter's aesthetic and unreleased songs and ideas and basically just copied her completely. So that part of the conspiracy theory, I do believe. I do believe Gaga stole inspiration from this woman and gave her no credit, but there is a darker part of the conspiracy theory where I feel like we go a little tinfoil hat, which is the idea that Lina was murdered by Lady Gaga. Lina Morgana's mother also claims that Lady Gaga literally stole her daughter's soul because she claims that she really took not only Lina's style but her story. When Gaga first started popping off, she kind of had this vibe of like, oh, she grew up poor, she grew up this, had a hard time in life, but realistically, like, she went to high school with Paris Hilton and Nikki Hilton. Like, I think she was doing fine, you know? Gaga's original story really aligned more closely with the story of Lina Morgana. So a lot of people think that Lady Gaga actually saw Lina Morgana's style, loved her music type, and wanted to basically completely steal her personality, but in order to do so, she had to murder her to do it. And this kind of goes into play with the producer that they were both working with at the time, Rob Fusari, who Lady Gaga was dating. And basically the theory is that Rob Fusari believed that Gaga could really excel in the music industry if she had a quirky, strange look that was similar to Lina's. And I guess he just didn't believe Lina had what it took to get there, but he thought Gaga's voice with Lina's aesthetic would be the perfect storm. So they orchestrated her death and pushed her off of the building, and that is the conspiracy theory. And then Lady Gaga stole her presence, her personality, her aesthetic, and obviously became one of the most famous pop stars in the world. I don't know if I believe that part's true, which is why I'm giving overall 2 out of 10 on the believability scale, because like I do think she could have been inspired by her, but do I think that Lady Gaga like murdered someone? Probably not. I don't know. I do definitely think it's an interesting theory overall though, and I want to hear your guys' thoughts. All right, the last one in this tier is that Michael Jackson is still alive, the Dave theory of it. So I have believed before that Michael Jackson faked his death because there is a lot of evidence of Michael Jackson talking about his death prior to it, saying that he was scared that they were coming to get him, and a lot of people think that's the Illuminati. His sister LaToya Jackson even spoke about it too and said Conrad Murray was just a fall guy and that he wasn't the person who actually killed Michael Jackson, and it was more of an organized, like, on purpose situation. And so a lot of people thought that maybe Michael Jackson faked his death. I don't necessarily think that, but I do think he was murdered by the Illuminati or whatever you want to call it. But there's this really popular theory that a burn survivor artist named Dave is actually Michael Jackson in disguise. So here's basically the plot of the story. So after Michael Jackson's public funeral in September of 2009, Larry King Live interviewed a man named Dave, who was a longtime friend of Michael Jackson and had survived a horrific childhood arson attack. And conspiracy theorists immediately took this and ran with it. They were like, this is Michael Jackson. They felt like his jawline, his eye movement, his vocal tone, and his voice itself were just all the same as Michael Jackson, and people really genuinely thought that Dave is just Michael Jackson in prosthetics. Now, I don't think I really believe this. I do understand understand why people do, and it kind of adds to the overall conspiracy theory. Like, could Michael Jackson have faked his death because he was scared of the Illuminati? Maybe. And has there been a lot of Michael Jackson sightings ever since he died? Yes, but like, do I think that they're real? I don't know. But the thing about Dave is, we know who he is. He was born David Rothenberg. As a child, he was a victim of a widely reported crime where his father set him on fire during a custody dispute, leaving him with severe burns. And as an adult, he later changed his name to Dave to sever the connection between him and his father. And he built an art career in Las Vegas and spoke publicly about survival. And sometimes he was alongside Michael Jackson because Michael Jackson ended up befriending him. And sadly, Dave passed away on July 15th of 2018 at the age of 42 years old. And the Clark County coroner said that he died of natural causes, which is a little strange considering he was only 42. I don't know exactly what those natural causes are, but they weren't really released ever. But conspiracy theorists have always obsessed over this Larry King interview where Dave just sounds like Michael Jackson, and he's literally talking about how Michael Jackson was like a father to him, and his voice is just so soft. His cadence is very similar to Michael's, and I honestly understand why people think this is true. I just don't believe it, which is why I'm gonna have to give it a 3.5 out of 10. All right, we're moving forward to cult favorites now. These are some of the more believable pop culture conspiracy theories as a whole, and we're starting out with Khloe Kardashian's real father. So over the years, there have been a plethora of claims that Khloe Kardashian just looks different than her sisters and that there's no way Robert Kardashian could be her father. Well, the number one speculation is that O.J. Simpson was Khloe Kardashian's real father. And I will say I kind of understand where they're coming from, which is that Khloe Kardashian and O.J. Simpson's daughter honestly do kind of look alike, but I still have never really believed this theory to be true. But Kris Jenner had an affair, and there's no way that Khloe could be the daughter of Robert Kardashian. The thing here that I actually think is more interesting than the whole O.J. Simpson of it is this man named Alex Roldan. So Alex Roldan was Kris Jenner's longtime hairstylist, and honestly, him and Khloe look so much alike. Like, they actually look really, really similar, and a lot of people think that he is the real father of Khloe Kardashian. I don't know, overall, I kind of don't believe this because I do see similarities between Khloe and her father, especially between Khloe's son and her father. Like, I feel like they look a lot alike. But the one thing I will say is the height never really made sense to me. Like, how is Khloe so tall when all of her siblings are short? Her dad was short, her mom was short. Like, it just doesn't, that's like a little bit weird. But nonetheless, she took a DNA test on the show and she was Armenian, so I don't know, debunked if you want to believe that to be true. I guess I'm giving it a 4 out of 10. Also, O.J. Simpson has denied this several times. Kris Jenner, of course, has denied this several times. Khloe has denied it as well. I don't know. I want to hear your guys' thoughts on it though. All right, the next theory I want to talk about, Larry Stylinson. I think people are going to be sad that I ranked this so low, but here's the thing about Larry is that I don't think that part is not believable. In fact, I would rate just Larry as a whole, that something happened when they were in One Direction together, like an 8.5 out of 10. I'm pretty sure it did happen. I don't know for a fact, obviously, but what is bringing it down for me is the whole fake baby conspiracy theories of it all, okay? If you were online anywhere between 2012 and honestly still to this day, I still get Larry TikTok sometimes on my For You page. You've seen it, Larry Stylinson. The fandom theory that Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson were / still are, people believe they still are to this day, secretly together in a relationship and closeted by their management. So the reason I actually do believe that the management would want Harry and Louis to not come out about this, even though it would have excited a lot of Larrys and people who believed in Larry, I think it would have taken away that like essence that a boy band has where people genuinely think they are going to date Harry Styles, and I think that would have probably lowered the fame of One Direction slightly in the manager's eyes. I don't think it would have done so, but a lot of people do. And also, to be fair, we know Modest also worked with Fifth Harmony, and Lauren Haregi said that they told her not to come out as bi. Just saying. I don't know. But the part where things just went too far was definitely in 2016 when Freddie Rain, Louis' son, was born. I just think that this part's hilarious. There were so many different rumors that this was photoshopped and conspiracy, and the tattoos were off, the shadows are off. People were literally freaking out about this. And I just never believed that part of the theory. I never believed that Freddie was a fake kid. I mean, he literally looks exactly like Louis. Where are they gonna get that? I don't know. But people thinking that they were together in some sense, again, I'm actually maybe gonna give it a bump it up to a 9 out of 10. I do believe that they were. I just don't believe that the baby gate thing is real. I don't think that they faked. I think Freddie was born. I think both of them are probably bisexual. But I do think they definitely had a special romantic connection to each other. I'm sorry. I know it's like so cringe to actually believe that, but I do. Especially because when Harry was asked if Sweet Creature was about Louis, he was like, I would lean towards no. What do you mean by lean towards? What do you mean by that? Harry? I thought that was odd, but you know, this one's for the Larrys. We're giving it overall a 5 out of 10. All right, the next theory on the list is that Taylor Swift is actually the high priestess of the Church of Satan. I think this theory is one of the most famous conspiracy theories of all time. Taylor Swift looks a lot like the daughter of the Church of Satan's founder, Anton Lavey, and the girl's name is Zena Lavey. I will agree, they look alike, but Zena Lavey still exists, so question mark. But a lot of people thought that Taylor Swift actually was her, and that this means that Taylor Swift is part of some cult, the Church of Satan, and it's just this whole dark thing. A lot of people also think maybe Taylor Swift is Zena's daughter, which I guess I believe that more. Overall though, I don't really think that this is true. I mean, we know who Taylor Swift's parents are, but I will say she kind of doesn't look like her parents. Like, she looks more like the Xena bitch than her parents, but I don't know. I just feel like if the Church of Satan had like such a famous figure as Taylor Swift, they probably would want to brag about that, but that's just me. Maybe I'm just thinking of the Church of Scientology, honestly, I don't know. But I'm also giving this one a 5 out of 10, and maybe I'll bump up Louis and Harry to a 5.5, because now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know. All right, the last section here is the void. These are some conspiracy theories that are so dark, but I actually do believe them, at least to an extent. So the first one is the theory that Kurt Cobain was murdered. I have always believed this theory to be true. Do I think he was murdered by Courtney Love? Not really. But do I think he was murdered at all? Kind of. So in April of 1994, Kurt Cobain passed away of suicide. He allegedly took his own life, but since this happened, so many people never believed that he actually did take his own life and that he was really murdered. And there's kind of a lot of theory to this that makes sense. There's a lot of paper trails, there's private investigators, there's toxicology arguments, there's kind of a lot going on. So obviously I think the first thing that is most evident here and most questionable to me has always been the fact that he had so much heroin in his system that many expert toxicologists report that this would have been impossible for him to have pulled the trigger himself after having that much heroin in his system. I mean, like, how am I gonna say, like, how I'm not gonna argue with the, I almost said cosmetologist. I'm not gonna argue with the toxicologist, you know? There's also a lot of people that claim that Courtney Love paid them to murder Kurt. I don't know if I think that's true, but what I will say is there was a private investigator, Tom Grant, who was hired by Courtney Love in early April of 1994, right after Kurt left rehab, and Tom Grant claims that when Kurt Cobain's body was found, and he said that in his opinion that he believed that this was foul play, which detectives repeatedly rejected his conclusions. I also think there was a lot of good argument about the state of his note that he left behind. Like, some of it clearly looks like it's written in a different handwriting, and I just think that that part makes no sense. I don't know. I've seen a lot of evidence towards this theory, and I will say a lot of it is strange, like different handwritings. Of course, the idea that he probably would not have been able to pull the trigger because of how much heroin he was on. I don't know. I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10 on the believability scale. I do think that there is a lot of evidence towards it, but I just don't fully overall believe it, and I don't fully think it makes a lot of sense for Courtney Love to murder the father of her child, but that's just my opinion. I don't know though. I definitely understand why people do believe this theory, because I haven't done a really huge deep dive on it. If you guys would like that video, let me know, because I do feel like there are very loyal subscribers to this conspiracy theory, and I kind of want to know why. Like, I feel like I've read a lot about it and seen a lot about it, but you know, there's always more research to be done at the end of the day. All right, the last and darkest theory that I believe to be the deepest part of the iceberg is the idea that Elvis Presley is still alive. I know, I feel like it sounds stupid and crazy, but I genuinely believe that this is true, okay? So as we know, baseline, Elvis Presley died at 42 years old on August 16th of 1977 in Memphis at his home on the toilet, as many people know. Immediately, people were devastated over this. Like, Elvis was one of the most popular people literally ever. So this was definitely something that people just didn't want to believe to be true. So, scroll forward to the early 2000s, a Kansas City area physician named Dr. Donald Hinton published a book with the title The Truth About Elvis Aaron Presley in his own words. And the premise is that this man named Jesse had come to Dr. Hinton and was claiming to be Elvis Presley. So obviously that sounds a little crazy, but it is true. So Suzanne Stratford is a reporter who ended up taking this like very seriously and wanted to analyze it herself. This Jesse person never showed his face. He said he would one day, but he never ended up doing so. And essentially he was willing to give DNA. He did. People said it was kind of inconclusive. He matched some of Elvis's DNA, but not all of it, if that makes sense. But it makes a little bit more sense as years go by. So this was in 2002. And then years later, a woman named Eliza came forward and asked Suzanne Stratford if she could test her DNA against Elvis's DNA because she believed that she was the daughter of Elvis Presley. So Eliza's birth mother told her the name of her father, and so she went to him, and he was very adamant that he was not her father. And Eliza just didn't know what to do at this point. She just didn't know who her father was, but she always had a theory. But then later in life, her and her husband were watching a TV show where there was a picture of Elvis Presley as a young child, and her husband was in such shock about how similar Elvis Presley as a child looked to Eliza and his 3-year-old son, Andrew. Eliza knew that her mother had actually lived across the street from Elvis at Graceland, and shortly after he bought it in 1957 and 1958, and he had been friends with the family, and there's even a photo of Elvis with Eliza's birth mother and aunt. Eliza's husband suggested that maybe Elvis was actually her father. This, of course, made her remember this circulation in the earlier 2000s of this man who was claiming to be Elvis Presley and Suzanne Stratford covering it and all of this stuff. And what she remembered from this theory is like, oh, I'm gonna go ask Suzanne Stratford if I can test my DNA against the DNA that they had of Elvis Presley. Forgetting about the Jesse guy at all. She didn't think Jesse was legit whatsoever. So then they tested Eliza's DNA against Elvis's DNA, and Eliza actually obtained the DNA of Elvis's cousins, both on the maternal and paternal side. She didn't match the maternal side of Elvis's cousin, but she matched Donna Presley's DNA as a cousin. And then they tested her DNA against this guy, Jesse, who came in years before claiming to be Elvis, and their DNA matched not as father and daughter, but as brother and sister. So like, what do you mean? Like she's literally Elvis Presley's sister. Jesse is alive. Elvis. Jesse is also the name of Elvis's unborn, stillborn twin. And again, Jesse then tested against the DNA of Donna Presley and the DNA of Brenda Smith, which was the first cousin of Elvis on his mother's side. And he matched that DNA, both of them. Both sides of the Presley family, he matched, which the only person on earth who would be able to do that is Elvis. Well, and obviously like Lisa Marie. So Jesse was biologically related to both of Elvis's cousins on the maternal side and the paternal side, and Eliza was related on the Presley side of things. And she reached out to Jesse, she contacted him, and they did the DNA test against the two of them. Again, they matched, and this all led to a lawsuit where Eliza Presley decided to sue Elvis Presley Enterprises and told Eliza that there's no money left over for her to receive, that this isn't true, whatever. She was like, I don't want money, I just want proof. Essentially, she wanted some more DNA testing and forensics to be done, but eventually this case was just thrown out. But I just think it's fucking nuts. The 2001 happens and this man is claiming to be Elvis, he's given DNA, whatever. And then years go by and this woman is also claiming to be related to Elvis, wants to test her DNA against Elvis's, thinks this Jesse guy's a freak, and then not only matches Elvis's DNA but also Jesse's, and Jesse matches both sides of Elvis Presley's family tree. Like, there's no other words. These Eliza and Jesse are two literal strangers who do not know each other and happen to like have this wild, like, come on. Like, it doesn't make sense for it to be fake, because who would do that? Who would do that like in 2002 and then wait years later to have Eliza come in and test the DNA? It would have made more sense to be like a hoax if Eliza and Jesse had come up at the same time, but they didn't. And I don't know, I believe this theory, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts overall. Anyway, that is it for today's video. If you guys liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Let us know in the comments below what you guys think of all these conspiracy theories. Where would you rate them on the iceberg? Let us know. But that is it. Make sure you follow me on Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram, and subscribe for new videos every week. And I'll see you guys later. Bye.